from Virginia, USA. I see the camera is not straight, but I think you can do this. Welcome, welcome. If you are seeing this later, this was a live, and it's about this book. You know, I have two favorite books. I have so many books, but these are my favorites. They're always close by. This one is called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and this one is Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. Today, I said, you know, I recorded videos about them like in detail. We're discussing whatever he was doing in the books, in the pages. And I have 68 videos on just this book, and then I have 103 on this one. But I said, like when I go live on TikTok these days, I quote these books a lot. I said, you know what I need to do? Let's come back live, because when we used to come live, I would like read books and we come and discuss, and I would ask them questions. People really put their energy in these books, although they're not taking action, but they really got the message. I said, how can we revive this message? This time I'm not reading books, I'm not like getting, but what are the lessons that we get from this book? This one was mostly personal finance. And this one goes another level. It talks about how you become financially independent. It goes about the left and the right, but we're not talking about this one yet. Let's first see how this one goes. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was written by Robert Kiyosaki. You must be familiar with Robert Kiyosaki, right? Or you're not? I'm going to say something about him with his own words here. But let me first say what my intention here is. To pick out, you know, some of the stuff he talks about, the things he talks about like USA, to developed countries, especially USA, right? But I want to pick out the lessons that apply to all of us. Like, depending on, doesn't matter where you are. Like what I put the title there, I said, the house is not an asset. So today we're talking about two things. He says somewhere in the book, like instead of saying to yourself, I cannot afford it, whatever it is, say to yourself or ask yourself, how can I afford it? That as soon as you say, how can I afford it? Your mind opens up and then you start thinking, oh, how can I afford this? Don't lock yourself down like, oh, I can't afford it, that's not for me. Limiting beliefs, right? And then the other one I want to mention, okay, that one, how can I afford it? And the other one, he says the main message here is you have to know the difference. If you're going to be financially successful, you have to know the difference between an asset and a liability. And he says a house is not an asset. Your house is not an asset. So we're going to talk about that, and then I'm going to ask your opinion. Those of you who come here and you are looking for the book, we are not like being very technical here. We're just casual. We are casual with it. If you want to know the real technical stuff, I didn't link it, but I could put links in the later. After I finish this live, I'll put links if you want the real book. The real book and also the audio book, like you can go get them. But for now, we're just being casual about it, but still learning the lessons. So lesson number one, the one I'm talking about here today, is instead of saying, how can I afford it? Whatever it is, say, instead of saying, I cannot afford it, say, how can I afford it? And the other one is, we're going to talk about asset versus liability, because he says, once you figure this one out, once in your small way, it doesn't matter how much money you're making right now, if you, in your mind, you are thinking about, this is an asset, this is a liability, you're going to go far. In fact, he has another term he uses in his cash flow game. He calls this doodad. If you know what doodads are, I think doodads, if I forget to talk about doodads, remind me later. Those of you in the chat, that what was the doodad? Because the doodad can destroy you. So that one, he mentions it in the cash flow game. So, who is Robert Kiyosaki? Let me first say hello to the people here. Okay, members, welcome. Please do not forget to like. Yes, like it. Give it a like and also share with others. I see we don't have enough likes, please. Like it, and thank you, Miss Sheila. Welcome. So, but for those of you who are watching it later, please always add a comment. You know, these days when I go and watch someone's video, as they speak, I add a comment. As they speak, I add a comment. By the time I leave, I have so many comments, because you may forget like what's going on. Like right now as I'm speaking, like Robert says, a house is not an asset. What do you think about that? Put it in a comment, you say what you're thinking. As we go, you can add another comment. As we go, you add another comment. Make it fun and you support the channel too, the video. Okay, who's Robert Kiyosaki? Assuming you don't know anything about the person we're talking about. This is a popular book, but the time I checked had sold over 5 million copies. But let me see, according to him, because if you watch the other videos, went like one by small detail about him. But today, I don't think we're going to do that. I'm just going to go to the back of the book, what he put. Although every book, you know, this is like, he had a little one that started, and then he had this one. So each time he describes himself a little bit different. So today I'm going to read, this is the latest one. I'm going to read what they say about him. So, about the author, who is Robert Kiyosaki. If you don't know the spelling, it's right there in the title. I put it somewhere. Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah. So, best known, I'm going to read a little bit here, so it's not my own words. I'll get from the book, okay? He's the best known, Robert Kiyosaki, as the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which the book we have, the #1 personal finance book of all time. I agree. Robert Kiyosaki has challenged and changed the way tens of millions of people around the world think about money. He's an entrepreneur, educator, and investor who believes the world needs more entrepreneurs who will create jobs. See, I believe in that too. We need more entrepreneurs, we need more business owners and creators like the online world is doing now. Yes, I believe in that. So with perspectives on money and investing that often contradict conventional wisdom, like that one. Like, for example, he has earned an international reputation for straight talk, perseverance, and courage, and has become a passionate and outspoken advocate for financial education. Robert Kiyosaki, I will skip that. Then say what? He's a visionary who has a gift for simplifying complex concepts and has shared his personal journey to financial freedom in ways that resonate with audiences. Yes. We'll enjoy this book. So there's something I marked here, and I said, like, for example, the thing that get him in trouble. Like, he said, we're going to talk about them, but not all of them today. He says, your house is not an asset. That's the one we're going to talk about today. And then he says, invest for cash flow. Okay, that one, no one is arguing. Then he says, savers are losers. Can you imagine someone says you're a loser because you're saving money? And then he says, something else he says, let's see. Your house is not an asset. Invest for cash flow. Savers are losers. What else? He says many other things, but that one, the savers are losers and your house is not an asset, ignited a firestorm of criticism and ridicule. Over the past 2 decades, his teachings and philosophies have played out on the world economic stage in ways that have been both unsettling and prophetic. Prophetic because he said things and then they happened. He loves history. I didn't know that history is so important. You have to know history to know if you want to know about money. In fact, you know, when we were in the schools where they said history is Rugambo, history is no good. Actually, people use history to learn about the future. So he's one of them. He tells stories about the history of money and when this bill was signed and when that happened. So now, let's come to, remember I said today the lessons are, if you keep saying to yourself, I cannot afford it, say instead, how can I afford it? The other one is asset and liability. What does he say about asset and liability? And then he says, your house is not an asset. Okay, let me see. Welcome. So I have a question for you. Because I like to interact with the people in the chat. But you can also think about this. Especially when you are younger, because right now my channel is not for young people, but when you are younger, that's when this lesson would actually work better. Because can you imagine when you go to school and your friends all have these nice shoes and nice clothing? Do you know in USA people don't wear uniforms? So they keep changing clothing every day. They are coming and with a better one and another one. You feel like, wow, huh? Maybe you go to your mom or dad and say, I want those too. Because here, like the sneakers, the shoes, they cost like $300. Can you imagine? You are 15 years old and you want to wear shoes that cost $300, right? Of course, the parents are going to say no. So instead of being sad, according to Robert Kiyosaki, say, how can I afford it? And you know what young men do? It's very common here, or young men and women. The 15-year-olds, they can go, after they ask, how can I afford it? They go babysit. You can go babysit for, like after school, you go help someone with your children. They pay you soon. You can afford to buy the shoes. And also, although there is another way, remember I said do that? In other ways, when he's talking about money, he would call that one a do that. But let's learn the lesson of how can I afford it. So maybe stereo, video games, whatever those things they like, the teenagers, the young men, they go wash cars or cut grass, or do whatever you have to do, as long as it's honest money. That's the concept he's saying. People do lemonade stands, so much to do. Some come and on TikTok, they become influencers, they make some money. Figure out a way to afford that thing instead of being sad that you cannot afford it, okay? But then, in that same conversation, there is a lesson. Why do you want to wear $300 shoes? That's another question. Why? Why not think about how you can use the 300 to make it more? Like to grow it, start something online. See, that's where I come in. I say, why don't you come and instead of spending $300 on shoes, just spend $100 on shoes and $200 to invest in your business. That's me though. But he does it too. He calls those do-that. People who spend so much money on things that are worn out in like a few days. But the lesson, we take it. That how can I afford it? Oh, I can do something and afford what I want, right? Now, so what do you say about that one? Yeah, we learn a lot from history, but we tend not to, like when you're young, we don't understand it. You know, like sometime I was saying to my daughter, I said, can you imagine, like right now, the fact that President Barack Obama was president, the first black president in America, it's like some people are just reading about it in books, but who are here, we voted. This is what I mean. So you go talk to grandma, say, were you here when it happened? Yes, I was here. But some are just reading about it. We have a famous story here in America, sad story, September 11th. I watched it, but some people are just reading about it. So these are important events. It's good to learn, but for him, he talks about money a lot and history, the history of money and how things were changing and how laws were how people were reacting to laws. This self-employment, accountants going on to buy houses and stuff because they want to save on property tax, that kind of stuff. I mean, to get tax deduction, is it? They get a refund back. They had these laws that were affecting the way people were behaving. So he was quoting that in that time, people were buying houses and making losses and not even caring because they want the money back, the interest being paid back. Okay, so now we got that, right? So think about, I'm going to the chat. Sheila, how does this message resonate with you? Instead of saying, how can I afford it? You say, no, what I cannot afford it. You say, how can I afford it? Do you have an example? Miss Sheila, those in the chat. Do you have an example that you could give that I can use right here for those who will come later? Like something like what? Like, Miss Sheila, what do you want to buy right now, but you've been saying to yourself, I cannot afford it, and after thinking about this, now you think maybe you can afford it. You have something? I'll wait for you to put in the chat. Now, the other lesson, the big one in this book, you have to know the difference between an asset and a liability. Asset, liability, okay? Asset, I'm putting here in the chat. Asset versus liability. Because if you don't know the difference between those two, you may end up having liabilities thinking they're assets. So when you go inside this book, you see he's giving us those examples. When he's teaching the lesson, he's always very good at giving the specific example and specific example. You know, when we see people who are successful, we think maybe they don't put in a lot. Actually, they do. Remember, he had to change the book. Wait, the first one? From this one to this one. But if you read this one, it's like you are reading a complete new book. Okay, the concepts are similar, but he put too much time in this. And he also gets into like personal development, limiting beliefs, all that stuff. Oh my goodness, it's so good. So he gives examples. Asset, yeah. So what's an asset? When you make your money, before you spend it, according to him, you need to know the difference between an asset and a liability. And we are not using accounting here. You want to build a house, so how can you build it? How can I afford it? We're going to talk about building houses at some point, maybe not today, but in the future lessons. We're going to talk about, this time I'm not going to make this so long. We'll get that discussion of building houses later, the next one, okay? Next one, let's talk about how to build a house. How to build a house, okay? We'll be in the future ones. Remember, I'm going to be dropping up here, coming on here to do this, and it's going to be different times because my audience is international. Like right now, I miss the Malaysia family. Malaysia is 1 a.m., so they are not here. So I can do it in early in the morning, we get Malaysia. I can do it later to think about like Bangladesh. Bangladesh love these books, but now it's late for them too. So I'll be switching the times, but if you miss it, you find it here on here. When we finish, it becomes the video. Please always remember to subscribe and tap on the bell so you know when I have these new things coming. This is real life. Okay, asset liability. Who wants to try to define it? Margaret, welcome. No, you missed a lot, Margaret. You missed a lot because we are talking about this book. It changes lives. But you've seen me with it, maybe when I'm on TikTok. And on here I have 68 videos about the same book. Rich Dad Poor Dad, Cash Flow Code. Someone in the chat is asking what they missed. Yeah, you missed that. But you missed when I said the main lesson from Robert is, instead of saying I cannot afford it, say how can I afford it? And it works with adults, but also it works with children. Like those teenagers who want to ask for everything and everything. How can I afford it? Go do something. Go wash someone's car. Go. You know, people, when I say the $7 for partner with Anthony, you see, I don't have anything. You know what I say this time? I said, skip a meal. Behave like a Muslim today. Fast. You go fast and skip a meal until you get to Mitwari Lumkasam. These are normally from Uganda. Because this is just $7 and you are there crying, you don't have it. If it's this $7 is going to help you get to a better future, go to what you have to do. I've told them, go clean a rich person's car. You say, offer to wash it. Then, or go cook some chapatis or something. That's the how can I afford it. That's what we're talking about. Now, the other how can I afford it, like right here, when we're in these kind of countries, that's when people take on a part-time job. You could say, okay, this money is not enough. I want to buy that. I want to do this. And then you ask yourself, how can I afford it? You go put in a few hours, extra hours somewhere, like you do a part-time job. Okay? That's for adults. You put a part-time job on top of the full-time job to afford whatever that thing you want to or you want. Maybe you want to go on vacation, but your budget can't do it. Yeah. Have you come back from somewhere with Madam? What do you mean? Someone is asking, have you come back from somewhere? Someone is missing here? Fatima. Where is Fatima? Fatima said she would be here today. Hada. So it's supposed to be Margaret. Let me announce it here. Hope they won't mind. Please share your TikToks with me. Are you posting on TikTok every day? If you are, I want to invite you to the other group. I call them the TikTokers, the serious ones, because I don't see your stuff because of that. So I invite you, after here, send me one of your TikToks. I want to check your account. If you've been very active, you are invited to join. I'll add you to the group where Shira is there and Fatima is there. You are not there though. So I was talking about asset liability. An asset, according to Robert, puts money in your pocket. Puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. He made it easy. He didn't use accounting language. You know, when you remember accounts, That's why they say asset liability. Now you start thinking, what's an asset? You are like cramming it, but actually, according to him, that's what it is. So anything you are doing that is not putting money in your pocket, he says it's not. You cannot call it an asset because assets are about cash flow. So people who have assets, an example, if you have a rental house you rent, if you have like people pay you rent, right? If you have like they say commodities, you can sell money, not necessarily cash flow, but something that has value that later you can get money out of it. It can also be an asset. Like if you have gold and silver and what? Gold, silver, paper assets, they can be assets. But according to him, I think the reason why he says it has to have cash flow is like if you're thinking about where to put your money. He wants you to put money like in a business, invest it in a business because it has cash flow. Now, I don't know that I want to get into the topic of whether, since I promised it a little bit, you can touch on it. Mirembe, we're going to talk about building a house in the future. But for right now, let's talk about why Robert Kiyosaki says that a house you live in is not an asset. Now, there are two ways to look at this. When he's explaining it, he's talking about the American way kind, because in America, very few people buy a house cash. They go and buy it cash because it's very, very expensive, right? Can you imagine a house they live in? Some people it costs $1 million US. Like buying it cash is hard. You go get a mortgage and you pay monthly like that. So he's saying that if that's a house you live in and you have to pay the bank every month, why would you call that an asset? He says it's not an asset because, we call it the American dream. So when you get to middle class, you can buy a house. You're so happy you bought a house. But he says it's not an asset because it belongs to the bank. It belongs to the bank. The bank just gave it to you to live in. But if you fail to pay it, if you fail to pay their mortgage every month, they'll get you out. So in that simple way, it's not an asset. Although some people, the reason why you buy a house and you're very happy is because you are not renting anymore. So you're not going to rent, you will stay in your own house. And what happens, those mortgages, if you have good credit, and especially depending on the market, you may find, for example, if a house you rent somewhere, if we want to rent and you pay like $2,000 US, you may find that if you buy it, you are paying maybe $1,700. You see, the rent tends to be a little bit higher. So a person will be very happy if they buy their own house, they are paying less, but they are still paying the bank. So according to him, the house belongs to the bank. It's not your. It's not. You're just happy because if you are not, you think about it. If you didn't have to rent, then the only time it makes sense is if you rent it out yourself. Then it's an asset. Now it changes. If you are renting it out to someone else, and someone is paying you $2,000, and the mortgage is only $1,700, now it makes sense because there is a $300 cash flow, right? The difference. You get $1,700 and give it to the bank, $1,700, and you keep the $300. But remember, you have to repair. The house is on you, the owner. So you may put maybe $100 aside, or maybe $150 aside for repairs, and then keep $150. At least the cash flow. So that's an asset, according to him. But I think he's correct in that sense. But if you live in it, what tends to happen? Why some people tend to want to own houses in USA like that is because if you are lucky enough that when you bought this house, maybe 100,000, the market goes up. No, don't worry, Miss Sheila. Even if they don't chat, in fact, what I care most about right now, because I'm not asking. If I'm asking a question, then they chat. If I'm not asking a question, it's okay to just listen. But before you leave, please add a comment after this discussion. Not on the video, not right here, but on the video. Can you add a comment? Or you can't? Liking and sharing is more important, but when I ask a question, that's when I expect you to respond. So, an asset oh, how is everything? Talk about something. Yeah, that's okay, Miss Sheila. Don't worry about the chatting now because I'm not asking. But when I'm asking, for example, when I ask you that, what do you need to, what do you say, how can I afford it? And you put a house, that kind of thing. Right now, I'm just explaining. It's okay, thank you. that an asset, the reason why people are happy when they buy the house is because it saves them from renting. But there's also, if the house was, for example, 100,000, and then you bought at a time when the housing market is good, the prices are going up, then they may see that, okay, the house they bought at 100,000 is now going up. Like maybe you have paid, those mortgages tend to be like 30 years. They give you 30 years to pay off the house, or 15 years, you can do that. Like, it's long time. So you may find that a house you bought 100,000 is now, in the market it's saying it's now 120. So you'll be excited, although there is higher taxes on that though. You could be excited and say, oh, my house is going up, right? Like I just said, there are some disadvantages, the taxes are higher, but also it doesn't really matter until you sell it. So if your house went up, like right now, you live in it, and they say, oh, you look in the market, it's going up. You could be excited, but until you sell it, you cannot call it your money. There's no profit. I did for what I'm explaining, that if you bought it 100,000, for example, and you've been paying a little bit, and now maybe the balance in the bank is like 80,000 on the loan. And then the market is saying that, oh, these houses are now, the value is 120. Someone could buy it today. Okay, that's today. But what if, no, we didn't sell it today? So the same house, believe me, 5 years later, you could have a shortage. I mean, it could fall down in price, depending on what's going on in the market. So until you sell and get it out, don't be so excited. And also those are capital gains, they call it. So it's complicated. I don't get into the complication. But I'm saying people are excited when they see the housing market going up. But only if you decide to sell it. I saw with my own eyes, 2 friends bought a house, and they bought it, and it did the opposite. So instead of, if you bought it at 100, right? And maybe they had paid, and it's like 90,000 left on the mortgage. Then the housing market fell down. It went down, and their house sold for like 75,000. I'm giving just an example because they had to pay the bank. They lost the house, and also they had to come with 15,000 to pay the bank because it was a short sale. That's called a short sale. You negotiate with the bank, and they're allowed to sell it at a loss. You just lost. So if you're so excited calling the house an asset, see what just happened. You have to get money on top of the month they've been paying. Then you get more from a bank and give the bank. That's why Robert, when he talks about this topic, he says you have to be very, very careful. Don't be so excited about a house you live in, calling it an asset, because things can change really, really quickly. Only if you see that it's really the market changes and then you sell it. But then they start thinking like this: when the price goes up, and then you get excited and sell it, now you can't buy another one because the prices are high everywhere. It's tricky. You may, if you don't have anywhere to go, only if you're going to move from that place to some other place, the housing market is high, so you can't get another one. You get stuck. I don't know if that's complicated. Is that complicated? Let me see. Did you follow what I was just explaining? So Robert says the house is not an asset unless you're renting it. If you buy a rental, and then now you have the cash flow, now you're in good business. And he has a way of explaining it, that if, for example, for every rental you have, maybe you buy the first house, and every month you have like 200 left, like cash flow, positive. And then another one. Maybe if your bills a month are 1,000, so 5 houses will pay your bills. 5, like, because you have cash flow here and cash flow and cash flow. So that's the kind of message he has for all of us, that we want to have houses, rental. Now, let me ask you, how is everything? Let me ask you, Sheila, what if you had a house, like in Uganda? You know, I'm originally from Uganda. What I just talked about is USA stuff. But what if you are in Uganda? People build their houses. Maybe some get loans from the banks, but it's common for someone to just build their house. A house they live in. So a house you live in, Miss Sheila, when you build that house, the one you want to build, will you call it an asset if you live in it? Like if you build your house and you are there, maybe your husband and husband, wife, your children, do you call it an asset when you live in it? Because you can move this, they can take the same concept to countries that build houses. They don't borrow, they just build slowly and finish it. So what do you call that? Is that an asset or a liability? And I think we'll get into the next topics next time, because I'm about to start a topic of building a house, and I think we'll do it next time. The topic will be like, I'm going to ask you, since we are still in these topics, still I'll say cash flow message, rich dad poor dad message, but I'm going to ask that if you're to build, according to this discussion, if you're to build a house, is it better to start with the house you rent or house you sleep in, your home? Oh, an asset, what was the question? Now I'm forgetting. What are you responding to, Miss Marcy? I didn't know you were here. Oh, the house you live in, the one you, with your children, you call it an asset? By Robert's definition, it's not. Do you know why? Because he said that an asset has cash flow. It brings money to your pocket. I didn't say that. An asset, by definition, brings money to your pocket, like a house you rent. A liability takes money out of your pocket. He says he's not stopping you from buying houses or building houses, but he just told you, just know what you have. Don't call it an asset. If your people are living in the house, the only way you could see it is that, okay, it helps you don't have to rent. Yeah, right? That's the only way you can see it like that. But if you could, for example, stay with your parents and you didn't have to rent, then when you build that house and move in it, I don't know. Seriously, it's something to think about. Because if you live in it, how is it an asset then? Only if you're going to sell it or something, then you have nowhere to stay. Someone, I wish you had Geoffrey. Was it Geoffrey? Geoffrey likes to go on and on with this kind of thing. He would put a whole paragraph about that. What do you think about a house you build to live in with your own money? Is that an asset? And by his definition, you know, he's teaching you financial independence. So if you build a very beautiful house to live in it, how does it make your life better? Because you're supposed to have some cash flow, right? There's no cash flow. Still, you have repairs, you have the things you have to do with the house. So that's his understanding. He's teaching us that an asset has to bring money to your pocket. Now, as I'm ending this, whenever I read these messages, whenever I study people like this, I like to put it online. Because when they were writing these books, okay, this one was revised which year? The internet was here, but not as big as now. So I'm thinking, which year did he revise it? 2011. Oh, 2011, not too far away, the internet was here. I'm thinking, since he keeps saying cash flow, it's important to have cash flow, right? Meaning cash flow in your pocket. So if you come and learn like what we do online, a similar concept would be like this. If you are promoting a product and it has passive income, like subscription, people pay every month, and every month they pay, you get like maybe 30%, the company sends you 30%. That's the equivalent of renting a house, don't you think? Did I not say? Aula went through this, and I said, we're going to have this discussion again. Then when next time you see me live, we're going to get into the house. And whether let me ask you a question, you answer it when you come next time. If you're to build a house, would you start with the house you rent or a house you sleep in for your family? Don't answer now, please. Don't answer now. We'll answer that next time. I'm going to be popping up here live many times, talking about this book and then this one. This one is for those who want financial independence at another level, owning businesses. If you want to own in businesses, then you're going to wait for this message. But I have these books already. I'm going to put links below this video. It's not a video yet. If you want to really, if you're fascinated by this stuff and want to go own your own copy, they even have audio version. You can, I'll put a link for you, Amazon. But for now, I'm saying, let's discuss that next time. So, what do you have to say about these things? Those of you in the chat, Aula, what do you have to say about this stuff you're discussing? I'm going to come again. I'll pop up. Was this time good for you? I know it's not good for other people. I know Bangladesh, they disappeared. They used to be here a lot. They love books. But we come at a time when they are sleeping. What's your takeaway? Before I close it, next time, is there anything? Add a comment now. Sheila, now is the time for comments. What do you want to say? And those of you who are watching this later, please put in a comment, something, or this stuff I've been saying. Some of them are his words. The house is not an asset, yeah, because according to him, a house, an asset brings money to your pocket, a liability takes money out of your pocket. So Sheila, it's an asset. How is it an asset when you sleep in it? By definition, he says an asset brings money to your pocket. So how is it an asset? Okay, anyone, if you have a question, please, a comment. I want to make this not too long. So I'm going to close it. But I pop up more and more. Margaret, don't forget to text me. Share one of your best videos, TikTok videos, to see if I can put you in my... I'll ask you if you post regularly on TikTok. Then we can put you on TikTok. Okay, no comment. Thank you, Miss Sheila. Aula, come more. Margaret, Fatima didn't come, right? Do you have Fatima here? Let me see. Oh, Kalkoma. I hope there is something to take away, especially the how can I afford it part. How can I afford it? You have to figure out ways. Mercy, yes, Miss Mercy in the Gire. Miss Mercy, we miss you. You need to be here more. We all of you think about starting YouTube channels. Aula was one of the people, Aula. You see that most of these people are new. You don't know them. They came later, and Aula is one of the people who actually brought most of the people in this community when we're discussing the books. And he was able to start his own business, by the way. Mungenyi, it's called the Mungenyi, Aula Mungenyi Agency, is that what you call it? In Uganda. So I'm proud of you for doing that. You took the message and ran with it and created something out of it. And I think your life changed because of this book. Most of them, I think. Which one if you had to pick which one gave you the most practical information, which one would you pick? Are you still here, Aula? Of these two, where did you gain the most courage to start your own business? Because you did. I'm very proud of you. This one or this one? By the time you did it, you were on this one. But when you first came, I was discussing this first one. Okay, we have to go. Thank you all so much. Share it. Add a comment. What do you think about this stuff? It's controversial. Some people, they were mad. When you say save as a losers and your house is not an asset, people were mad. They didn't like it. Okay, I have to go. Thank you all so much for watching it, for coming in. Thank you, Miss Sheila, for welcoming the guests, everyone who chatted. Please share it. Share it with others. And I'm going to come more. We're going to keep this message alive. The message has to be alive. If you're watching it 10 years ago when I'm dead, I was passionate about this. Very, very passionate. If you're watching it and you're my grandchild, Jaja was very passionate about this because I believe in financial independence and I believe that owning a business, creating something. I'm not saying quit your job, but as you're working your job, what he had another one where he says before you quit your job. See, he wrote this one too. He was saying before you quit your job, don't quit quickly. Wait. Make sure everything's in order, okay? We're not saying quit your job, but we are saying come, learn, create a side hustle slowly, and maybe you sell it. Let me see. Okay. Thank you all so much. I'm closing it now. Okay. Bye-bye. I'll show up another time. I don't know, but tomorrow is Friday. I think we could do it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever time I can. I'll share. Most of you are in my WhatsApp, so I'll share links. Please subscribe. Please like. Please click on the notification. That's how you know when I'm here. You click on notification, so YouTube will send you. Although they send to only a few actually. They send to less than 10%. So watch out. Come to my. Let me put here. Let me put some connection. For those of you who see this chat later, on TikTok, I think the easiest way to get to me now is through TikTok. TikTok, I have Sherifa Nakalema. Sherifa Nakalema is my handle everywhere. So it's on Instagram. is in, sorry, Sherifa Nakalema. I'm typing it. If you see the replay of this, you will go to the chat and you will see I'm Sherifa Nakalema on everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, but I think right now it's easier to get to me by TikTok. I'm about to go to TikTok right now. Halal money with Sherifa. If you want to learn this stuff I'm doing, just watch some of my videos. Halal money with Sherifa. And you get to my WhatsApp number at some point. Come, let's create businesses. Because online, you can create passive income, the way he's saying. Okay? Thank you all so much, especially Miss Sheila. Bye-bye.